And how you doing, everybody? Vasu Vada Party for another week of the Make the Money and Run podcast for June 28th, 2021. Charlie O on assignment under the new format. We'll be here Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, 3 Eastern on Mondays, noon Eastern on Thursdays, and Friday at 1 Eastern. We want to make sure we get in before all the games start. Previous schedule didn't allow us to, but now we'll be able to. I'll be here solo on Mondays. Charlie O will join me on Thursdays and Friday. So we appreciate everybody on Facebook and YouTube Live. If you missed any of the live broadcasts, how you doing, Frank O'Neill? If you missed any of the live broadcasts, you can download, subscribe, rate, and review anywhere you get your podcast. Like I said, a solo show today and on Monday. So we'll get to it right now as we get to sports. What a weekend it was in sports. First of all, we start with the NBA. The Phoenix Suns have a 3-1 series lead. Coming up, I'll tell you how the Phoenix Suns are better with Chris Paul in the lineup, even though they won the first 2 games of the series without him. The Milwaukee Bucks starting to show their pure dominance as they have a 2-1 series lead. They've covered the last 2 games, a blowout on Friday night, and then a separation in the fourth quarter that got them to a 10-point win. Both games did not go over, much to my chagrin, but that's the way the ball bounces, as they say. Milwaukee's defense starting to play well. So those are the NBA semifinals. Tonight, the NHL will start game 1 of the Stanley Cup finals, Lord Stanley's Cup. First time ever 2 Eastern Conference teams will play against each other, and that's because of the new format. The Montreal Canadiens will visit St. Petersburg, Florida to take on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tampa Bay, the second best team of the Final Four to come in as far as odds-wise. They were at plus 150. The Las Vegas Golden Knights were plus 110. Upset by the Montreal Canadiens in Game 6 on the overtime goal. Montreal came in at plus 1,100. And, of course, the Islanders, who were the 4th team, who are also not in after losing to Tampa Bay in Game 7 Friday night. What a Game 7 that was. 1-0. Tampa Bay wins that. They move on to tonight's Stanley Cup final for Game 1, but the Islanders were plus 550 going into the Final Four playoffs. All right. In Major League Baseball, the Yankees swept the Red Sox. The Giants beat the A's 2 out of 3. The Dodgers took 3 out of 4 from the Cubs, including Sunday Night Baseball. Trevor Bauer, very interesting on the Sunday Night Baseball broadcast, actually very open. Not sure that's good for him, but yeah, apparently he doesn't care whatever happens. He just wants the field to be equally playing, the RPM variations and everything like that going on with that. We'll get to the MLB lines. We'll get to all the NBA stuff, and we'll get to a couple of other potpourri. And don't forget our worldwide famous pick segment at the end of the show. It's unsponsored, but it's still good picks, so take them for what they're worth. As we get in, we're 2 weeks away from the All-Star break. We're winding down the NBA season, winding down the NHL season. I got the TV in front of me on, the monitor on in front of me. It's Wimbledon, first day of Wimbledon, so the round of 128 going for this first week. So we'll see how it goes. Let's check out Facebook. And Zeph on Facebook. Red Sox swept the Yankees. They sure did. A lot to talk about there in terms of that, Zeph. Thanks for watching. Frank O'Neill as well on here. We'll get back to it in a second. But the one thing I want to start with in baseball, we talked about the spider tack and the rosin bag and the bullfrog sunscreen lotion, everything that's supposedly helping pitchers gain an advantage. Let me say this again one more time. Hitters do not mind if pitchers have a good grip on the ball because they are afraid to have the ball slip out of their hands at 95 miles an hour and the batters have no idea where they're going. So that's okay. Now the commissioners come down. I don't like how they did it in the middle of the year. I know there's some ex-players that said that get the cheaters out right away, but I think it was kind of unfair to do it in the middle of the year because they're not doing anything to the batters as they're for it. So since last Monday, Major League Baseball and the umpires, and this started with Joe West on Giovanni Cabrera, the St. Louis Cardinals reliever, about a month ago against the White Sox, kicked him out or made him change hats, which made Mike Schilt, the Cardinals manager, go off on a deranged, crazed scene right there. He was just going to switch hats, but Joe West threw him out, saying that he was hiding something, et cetera, et cetera. So Major League Baseball on the count that Rob Manfred has said that they needed to get this stuff out of the game. I disagree with that. I agree with the spider tack. Anything that's getting your RPMs up at unfair disadvantage, similar to the trash cans, similar to the video cheating, et cetera. All that stuff is all bad for baseball. Whatever you do inside the lines, that's all part of the game. That's like doing your homework and taking advantage of what you see from game film, et cetera. But Hector Santiago, the pitcher for the Seattle Mariners yesterday, he's also been with the Angels. He's also been with the Twins. He's also been, I think he was with the Reds as well, too. Hector Santiago, the first pitcher to have his glove removed from the game, shipped off to New York, where they're going to analyze it and test it to see if he had any substance on there. He said there was nothing but rosin and sweat on there once he was removed from the game. And then Scott Service, the manager, I don't know if he got kicked out or not, but clearly something was going on with Hector Santiago. And if it proves that he's innocent, then baseball has done their job. They've gone after people that they thought were doing illegal stuff, and so they've come back after him in terms of making them change their hats, or once they're removed, sending the glove out. This happened with the bats. If you remember during the home run chase, Albert Bell had the same thing happen to him. His bat was being checked by the White Sox when he was a member of the Cleveland Indians, and that got sent back, was found with nothing. Of course, everybody remembers the famous argument of Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa. Sammy Sosa had a game where his bat got busted at an at-bat, and about half a dozen Super Balls came out. So that's bad, because that's like a golf club. That's like hitting it with a golf club, if you know that. Once again, I'm going to say this again. If you are using rosin and bullfrog sunscreen to get a better grip and not have a competitive disadvantage, that is okay. That is not the letter of the law. If you are using whatever I don't even know what the substances are for Spider Tack. I'd have to ask some former pitchers or some former big leaguers what it is that the Spider Tack is. But if you're using that and your RPMs are increasing by 500 revolutions per second, 500 revolutions per minute, whatever the calculation is, then you got to figure that there's something else going on. You can see the last 3 weeks since this edict came out, and cheaters are going to cheat, and they're still going to try and get whatever advantage they can have. Shortstops could have it on their hands. They could have it in their gloves. Pitchers could rub something else that could make sure that they do it. I haven't seen umpires check belt buckles yet or make them open their zippers up yet. That's for a different type of show, but I haven't seen any of that take place yet. But for the most part, every other inning, they're checking these pitchers as they come off the field. They're checking them before the start of the game, the starting pitchers, and it's off commercial time. So who cares? If they want to do it that way, let them do it that way as long as they're not interrupting the game. What happened with Max Scherzer last week, and we haven't had a show since Max Scherzer's deal with the Philadelphia Phillies and Joe Girardi. Joe Girardi says that he had never seen Max go to his head, and that's why he went out a third time to go ask him to check Max Scherzer, to which Max Scherzer responded by all the sarcastic looks and stare downs, and Joe Girardi got kicked out for inciting a riot. Kevin Long, his former hitting coach for the Yankees, now the hitting coach for the Nationals, kind of went after him a little bit, and Joe Girardi had to look all tough and come out of the dugout and asked him to go, and he said he was doing what was best for the team. But I think he was getting beat by Max Scherzer. I think if it was 9-0 in favor of the Phillies, I hardly doubt Girardi would have come in and said anything about it. But Max Scherzer was beating him. It was a 2-1 game. He was an underdog in that game, and it turned out to be well for the Washington Nationals. I think that was Wednesday that happened. So today is Monday as we start now with the Nationals and Phillies series. Kyle Schwarber, by the way, still red hot for the Washington Nationals. We'll get to all the baseball stuff in a little bit, but Hector Santiago, the first one to have his gloves sent back to New York. We'll wait for the results of what they find in the findings for the glove, whatever stuff he was using. It could be a lengthy suspension. I haven't heard what the suspensions are for it, but I'd be hard-pressed to say that it's going to be a cheap suspension considering that everybody's had 3 weeks to adjust. And I'm not sure that 3 weeks is enough to adjust, but the fact that they gave him 3 weeks to be able to stop, they should stop. And 85 to 90% of the players are not cheating. So I can understand why they want to get this out and why the players are saying, a lot of players are saying, let's get back to an equal playing field, because batting averages and home runs and hit and runs, stolen bases, all that stuff that's in baseball the last few weeks, seems like the batting averages have gone up, the OPSs have gone up, and so it's probably been a good thing so far. But I just wish that they didn't do it during the middle of the year. All right, Major League Baseball, let's get to the lines here real quick before we take a break here. National League lines, we got a game that starts at 5:10 Eastern, 2:10 on the West Coast. First game of a three-game series, maybe a three-game series. The Colorado Rockies are 113, 11.5. Kyle Freeland and Tyler Anderson. Pittsburgh Pirates won 3 out of 4 against the St. Louis Cardinals, who think that they're a contender in the National League Central. Well, with all due respect to the Pittsburgh Pirates and everybody in Pittsburgh, they're not good enough to be beat at home 3 out of 4 by the Pirates. And they lost, and Pittsburgh's playing better. You haven't heard of Adam Frazier. You haven't heard of Brian Reynolds. Brian Reynolds won a batting title 2 years ago. Adam Frazier led the league in hits 2 years ago with the Pirates. And those are names that people do not know on the Pittsburgh Pirates. And Tyler Anderson has pitched well. He's got a pretty good record right now, and his ERA is a little high. But they're in Colorado, the over-under 11.5, and the line 113. I still kind of think Pittsburgh's the way to go in this game, but I'll give you the official picks at the end of the show in our worldwide famous unsponsored pick segment. at the end. Cincinnati 148 with Wade Miley against Spencer Howard. Philadelphia just split 2 out of 4 with the Mets this weekend, including the Friday doubleheader where the Mets won 2-1 in comeback fashion, and then the Phillies won in 2-1 in comeback fashion in the second game of that doubleheader. Zach Wheeler pitched well yesterday for the Phillies, so they get the victory there, and they split that series 2 games apiece. The Phillies still have a 5-game lead in the loss column. I'm sorry, they're behind 5 games in the loss column to the Mets. They're 4 games out. Overall, Cincinnati lost Sunday's game to Atlanta, but they won 3 out of 4 against the Braves, and they put themselves right back into the hunt in the National League Central. The Milwaukee Brewers, we'll get to them in a second. Milwaukee and Chicago opening up a big series. Actually, we'll get to them next. Milwaukee and Chicago open up a big 3-game series this week. Freddie Peralta and Kyle Hendricks. Peralta 142, 7.5 the total. Cubs lost 3 out of 4 to the Dodgers. They have fallen back 3 games. Milwaukee swept Colorado this weekend, and so they moved up 3 games in the Central Division on Chicago. A good chance for the Cubs to come back and make this a race in the NL Central between first and second. You'll be surprised to see what my takes are on it in the worldwide unsponsored pick segment at the end of the show. Come on, sponsors, let's go. Get us some picks. Talked about St. Louis. They just lost 3 out of 4. They're going with a journeyman, Wade LeBlanc tonight against Feria, 163-9 the total in St. Louis. St. Louis lost 3 out of 4 to Pittsburgh. They have fallen back. In fact, let me get the standings right here while I'm looking at it. And then the big series in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Dodgers, 3.5 games back of the San Francisco Giants in the National League West. San Francisco Giants are 4 up in the loss column, 3.5 back in games behind. They've won 3 in a row. The Giants lost the third game of a 3-game series against the A's. They took 2 out of 3 from Oakland, and so they ended up losing a game as the Dodgers won 3 out of 4 against the Cubs the last 3, and they're back over 100 in run differential, plus 103. The Giants are plus 100 in the National League West. San Diego Padres take 2 out of 3 from Arizona, so they lose a game to the Dodgers. They're 4.5 back, 1 game back of the Dodgers in the National League West. We said Chicago is 3 back, Cincinnati 6 back in the NL Central. St. Louis, after losing 3 out of 4, they're 8 back, and then Pittsburgh is 15 back, although they played better in their last 10. The Mets are 4 up, 5 up in the loss column, 5 over Atlanta, who lost 3 out of 4 to Cincinnati. Philadelphia split with the Mets. They're 5 back and 6 back in the loss column. Miami all the way back and 9 back with 44 losses. They're 33 and 44. They are 11 back in the loss column. The American League, we'll get to the American League lines here in a second. The American League, as we said, the New York Yankees just got swept by the Boston Red Sox. You figure the Boston Red Sox and their pitching has not been very good this year, but their bullpen has turned out to be pretty good. And the Yankees, for some reason, they cannot hit right now. They've got a stacked lineup, but they strike out, walk, and homer, and that's all they do. And their defense is very questionable. But they're 153 tonight against the Los Angeles Angels. Dylan Bundy, who's 1-7 for the Angels, going up against Michael King. 153 the line, 10 flat on the total. The Red Sox are going to have Kansas City. They're 145, 11 flat. Garrett Richards and Danny Duffy. Danny Duffy's had a good year for the Kansas City Royals. They are, unfortunately, 11.5 back in the Central behind the White Sox, 11 back in the loss column. Detroit's right there. Detroit's actually up in third place. They've got 1 more win than Kansas City. And then what's going on with the Minnesota Twins? We'll get to that in a second. Chicago, Minnesota used to be a good series a few years ago in the American League Central, always battling out for first or second place. But right now, Minnesota playing terrible baseball. They're 11.5 back. They've won 2 in a row. They did win over the weekend against the Indians. The Indians are 2.5 back, but only 1 back in the loss column. Chicago has 77 games, but the Indians only have 74 games, so they have 3 games to make up. That's the difference in the games behind to the loss column. The Cleveland Indians, 155 over Detroit. Eli Morgan making his 4th major league start, 9.5 the total. Cleveland, we just said, lost 2 in a row. They only got 1 game against Minnesota this weekend. Matt Manning, who won his first major league game last week for Detroit. So you got Manning, Casey Mize, Matthew Boyd. They won 2 games this weekend from the Houston Astros, 2 out of 3 actually from the Astros this weekend, and cooled their bats off a little bit. We'll get to the American League West in a second. But how about Casey Mize and how about Matt Manning? 2 young stars coming up. Matthew Boyd has been in trade rumors every year for the last 5 years. But the Detroit Tigers are going to be visiting Cleveland tonight. 155, 9.5 the total with Eli Morgan. Matt Manning. You got to think Cleveland's going to come out of that funk after losing to Minnesota on the road, coming back at home against a semi-not-so-good Detroit team. All right, we talked about Boston, Kansas City, Garrett Richards and Danny Duffy. The White Sox, they have a 2.5-game lead on Cleveland right now. 129 the line with Lucas Giolito, 8th the total. Kenta Maeda ended up not pitching over the weekend against the Indians. And so this is a division game for him. This is another division game for him. Kenta Maeda's had a good year for the Twins, but they are terrible in the clutch with runners in scoring position. They strike out a lot. Josh Donaldson having a terrible year at third base. And Sano, if he's hitting above 200, I'm surprised because there was a point where he was hitting 116. But Kenta Maeda against Lucas Giolito at Guaranteed Rate Field tonight, 8:10 Eastern, 5:10 Pacific. You might have to look at the White Sox there. Now, would you ever lay $3.10 to win $1 on the Houston Astros or any team for that matter? That's what Zach Greinke is tonight against the Baltimore Orioles. They've lost 2 in a row. They're 2 out of their last 10, 24-54, 30 games under 500, 23 games back in the division behind the Red Sox. Eshelman going up against Zach Greinke, but 310. That's a lot to lay in terms of a betting line. 310. That's 9.5 the total. You'd have to think the Astros and the Orioles could go over 9.5, but Zach Greinke pitched pretty well against the Orioles last Monday night. This is his second shot at Baltimore. So that's some of the things going on in baseball. Of course, the Hector Santiago deal tonight in the National League. Trevor Bauer, Anthony DeSclafani in San Francisco. If the Giants can somehow get a split and stay 3.5 up in Los Angeles, that'll be good for them. And if they somehow sweep and get back up to 5.5, that'll be perfect. But the Dodgers looking for a sweep. They've won 3 in a row. They're going to try and get back to 1.5 games and 1 game back in the loss column. The American League West. We talked about the Oakland A's. They won 1 out of 3 this weekend. Actually, we're going to let the guy blow. Apparently, we have a blower out there right now. But we'll talk about the Oakland A's. They're 2 games back of the Houston Astros. Houston lost their game on Sunday. And then the Oakland A's, 2 games back. They won their Sunday game against the Giants. They lost 1 out of 3 this weekend, while Houston did lose 2 out of 3 as well. So they're exactly where they started. Oh, good. We got no noise now. Houston's still a plus 142 in the run differential. Oakland a plus 34. They did get their 6-2 win. They beat Sammy Long and the San Francisco Giants yesterday. Seattle 7.5 back. They're 7 out of the last 10. And the Angels. Can anybody tell me what's going on with the Angels? They lost 2 out of 3 this weekend in Tampa. Tampa Bay a half game back of Boston after Boston swept the Yankees. Tampa Bay only got 2 out of 3, so they fall a half game back, 1 game back in the loss column. Toronto has won 2 in a row. They beat the Orioles. They are 6 back, and they've actually overtaken the Yankees. They're 1 up on the Yankees in the loss column. 6.5 back are the Yankees in the division. They've lost 3 in a row. That was the Red Sox. So lots of things going on in baseball, but obviously we got to check the big story with Hector Santiago and his glove being shipped off to New York to check for foreign substances. That's going to be an interesting story this week. He's the first one. Haven't heard a star pitcher get checked yet. Not sure if they will or not. Trevor Bauer goes tonight, so I'll be interested to see what the umpires do with Trevor Bauer since he's the most outspoken right now in the game of baseball about leveling the playing field, yet he's the one being most accused with the higher RPMs per minute in terms of them going down and them going up. Him and Kershaw and all the Red staff from last year as well. And it's no coincidence Trevor Bauer was on the Cincinnati Red staff, at least for the accusations. I'm not saying anybody's guilty. I'm just saying as far as accusations go from that. All right, we're going to hit the NBA pretty hard. Vasi Vadaparty here. Charlie O off today. He'll be back with us on Thursday and Friday. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast. You can catch us Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Mondays at 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific. Thursdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And then Fridays at 1 Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Want to make sure we get in before all the games so that we don't miss any of the games. Don't forget, one early game between the Pirates and the Rockies at 5:10 today. And, of course, if you're looking for tennis action, Wimbledon Day 1 is starting right now. Andy Murray on the tube right now against Basilashvili. Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. Anyway, I'm Vadaparty. So if you can't pronounce that, then I get a credit for not being able to pronounce names very well. All right, we're going to hit the NBA. Thanks to everybody on Facebook Live. Thanks to everybody on YouTube Live. If you miss any of this, including the pick segment at the end, you can download, subscribe, rate, and review. Just look for that logo up there in the right corner. Anywhere you find Make the Money and Run, Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeart, SoundCloud, and anywhere you get your podcasts. All right, back in 30. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast for Thursday, June 28th, 2021. See you then. Welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast. Vasu Vadaparty here, solo act today. Charlie O on assignment. He'll be back with us on Thursday and Friday as we set this new format for the Make the Money and Run podcast every Monday, Thursday, and Friday, 3 Eastern today, 12 Eastern on Thursdays, and 1 Eastern on Friday. Facebook and YouTube Live. Thanks to everybody on Facebook and YouTube Live, as well as downloads and subscribes that we get. Also, you can get us on social media, each one of us, including Casey. Casey's still part of the show, Casey Freelove. He's just not on with us as he's got some other business to take care of for the next few months. But hopefully he'll be back by football season. You can send us emails at mtmarpodcast@gmail.com and also on Twitter at mtmarpodcast, and also each one of our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as Make the Money and Run podcast page on Facebook as well, too. All right, so that's how you get a hold of us. Our pick segment coming up in the next 20 minutes. Let's hit the NBA. How about those Phoenix Suns? The Phoenix Suns play tonight. 5.5 point spread, 213 tonight against the Clippers. Are the Clippers done? Are the Clippers done? What do you think? Let me know what you think. 213 the total. Phoenix up 3-1 in the series. And I'll tell you why the Phoenix Suns are better with Chris Paul, because the Clippers had a chance to win those first 2 games in Phoenix. They were up late in that game. They ended up not covering. Mistakes happened at the end of the game for the Clippers. And it was unfathomable, but the Clippers did not cover that 4-point spread a week ago Sunday. And then game 2, they had a lead, but Phoenix came all the way back again in game 2 and ended up blowing them out. So 2-0, they take that lead. The Clippers come back. Chris Paul comes back. They didn't have a lot of energy. Very surprised that the Phoenix didn't have a lot of energy in game 3. And then yesterday, Chris Paul seemed like he was feeling better, and he is an important part of that piece. He did not play the first 2 games, and that's why the Clippers had the lead, and they let that slip away, and it might cost them the Western Conference Championship Finals, because they had a chance to win at least one of those 2 games in Phoenix, and this series could be tied at 2 right now. Phoenix, depending on where you got the point spread on Saturday night, they were as high as a 1-point favorite all the way down to a 1-point underdog. I bought as many points as I could to get to +2. Turns out I didn't need it because they won the game outright. Chris Paul was the difference. Devin Booker shot better, even with the mask on. DeAndre Ayton becoming a man right now. DeAndre Ayton having himself quite a series. Nobody can stop him in the middle. And tonight they'll go at 9 o'clock Eastern. Phoenix 5.5 and 213. I think Phoenix might close it out, but whether they do by the point spread or not, you'll have to find out on the pick segment right now. But 3-1, Phoenix leads, looking to get into the NBA Finals for the first time in nearly 50 years for the Phoenix Suns. So shout out to the great RIP Cotton Fitzsimmons, Paul Westphal, near my area of Manhattan Beach, great star at Aviation High School and at USC, passed away a couple of years ago, last year actually. The Phoenix Suns and their tradition that they have, even the 95 teams. Actually, I take that back. They went to the finals against the Chicago Bulls in the mid-90s with Charles Barkley and Kevin Johnson and those guys of that nature, and they ended up losing in 5 to the Chicago Bulls during the great Michael Jordan run. So Phoenix 5.5 and 213. They're up 3-1 in the Western Conference Finals. All right, let's move on to the Eastern Conference Finals right now. The Milwaukee Bucks are 6-point favorites, 221 the total. They have not gone over the total the last 2 games, Friday and Sunday. The totals were at 225 and 224. Milwaukee, after losing game 1 by 3 points, in which Chris Middleton shot horribly, he has come back in the last 2 games and shot the ball brilliantly. Last night he was on fire, 36 points for Middleton. They blow out Atlanta in the fourth quarter. Atlanta couldn't make a shot. Trae Young hurts his shin or his ankle, but he was not effective in the fourth quarter. And so this 221 is about 4 points down from where it was on yesterday night for tomorrow night. And you got to think that game might go under. Milwaukee's defense looked great yesterday. Middleton shot well. Giannis played great. He's making his free throws, even though they're still chanting for the violations. But Milwaukee is 6-point favorite, and that's gone up from where it was on Sunday. It was a 4.5-point favorite, 4-point favorite. Got all the way up to 5 by game time. I thought the over would be good, and sure enough, it should have been good. They got 59 after the first quarter and probably should have gotten there, but it did not happen. Lousy fourth quarter shooting by Atlanta. So what do you all think about Milwaukee? Atlanta might have we'll have something tomorrow on the podcast minute in terms of whether we think Atlanta can stay in the series or whether Milwaukee's defense is just so good that they're dominating right now. 6-point favorite, 221 as we speak right now on Monday afternoon around 3:30 Eastern. All right, that's going to do it for the NBA. One note on the NHL. We said, here's the NHL. Stanley Cup, Tampa Bay 200, 5 flat is the total. Goaltending's been outstanding. Carey Price for the Montreal Canadiens has been just on fire, just as the kids say, just sick. And he was doing it against Vegas, standing on his head in all directions. And he looked like he was 25, 26 years old again. They're there. It won't surprise me to see Montreal win a game in Tampa, but I don't think it's going to happen tonight. Vasilevsky and the Tampa Bay Lightning, after their Game 7 win, they duked it out with the Islanders. Give the Islanders credit for getting them 2-7, but minus 205 for Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay takes a 1-game-to-none series lead and wins this game tonight on NBC. NBC Sports, I think, has a channel. I forgot where it is, but hopefully the hockey ratings will go up because this is going to end up being a pretty good series between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Montreal Canadiens. All right, so we hit NBA. We hit the hockey. We hit the picks here in a second. Back in 30 seconds with our worldwide famous unsponsored picks for Monday, June 28th, 2021. Make the Money and Run podcast. Thanks again to everybody on Facebook, Frank and Zeph on here, YouTube as well. If you missed any of it, tell your friends. You can download, subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Look for the logo MTMAR up there in the corner, and feel free to click on subscribe and let us know what you think. If you want us to let you know about any games, any previews that we can have, especially with the NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs coming up, and also some of these big baseball series. Don't forget, we got big baseball series tonight. Dodgers-Giants, always a big series in California. Cubs-Brewers has turned out to be a good series in the National League Central as well, too. Red Sox-Rays, Yankees and Blue Jays all fighting it out in the American League East with games to go this week. So we'll have the review of all the games on Thursday and also the podcast minute during the week. But back in 30 seconds, this is the Make the Money and Run podcast for Monday, June 28th, 2021. I'm Vasi Vadaparty. Welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast. Last segment here, the worldwide famous unsponsored picks. Come on, sponsors, get yourself out there. We're here on Monday, June 28th, Vasi Vadaparty solo act. Thursdays and Fridays, Charlie O will be with me. Here Mondays, 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific. Fridays at 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific on Facebook and YouTube Live, as well as Fridays at 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific. We want to make sure we get in before all the games. Facebook and YouTube Live. Download, subscribe, rate, and review anywhere you get your podcast. We appreciate all the support we've gotten over the last year and a half plus as we go into year 2 right now. We'll have some guests coming up down the road as well, too. Don't forget to check out Stables Media. We're powered by Stables Media. Make sure you check out all the shows on Stables Media. Get in there if you're interested in getting a podcast as well, too. Feel free to contact Stables Media. Get in there and put your podcast up there and tell us whatever you have to say because we want to hear from you as well. All right, now what we've come to, the worldwide famous unsponsored pick segment for Make the Money and Run for Monday. So I'm going to start out with baseball here. The Pittsburgh Pirates at plus 104. They just beat the Cardinals 3 out of 4. Tyler Anderson going today. Cal Freeland used to be the ace, not having a great year. He's 0-2 with about a 7.7 ERA. Got to go with the Pirates. That's the 5-10 game that's going to start in about an hour and 45 minutes from now on the East Coast in Colorado on the Mountain Time Zone. Be 3:10 Mountain Time Zone. Don't know the weird start, but there they are having it. Boston Red Sox minus 145. Garrett Richards. They just swept the Yankees 3 games straight. The Royals struggling the last week and a half. 145 seems cheap, though. Danny Duffy is their best pitcher, but I'm still going to go with the Red Sox to win their 4th in a row. Chicago Cubs plus 132 against the Milwaukee Brewers. I know they just lost 3 out of 4 to the Dodgers, but they're right there. They've been battling out for first place with the Brewers all year. But I think Kyle Hendricks on the road going to get them. Milwaukee still does not hit up until last show. I think the last show we did, the Milwaukee Brewers had a combined team batting average of 210, and it hasn't gone up there from there. It's probably gone up a little bit because they just swept the series with the Colorado Rockies at home. But they were down a lot in that series, and they were waiting for clutch hits. So the Chicago Cubs at plus 132 against the Milwaukee Brewers. Trevor Bauer and the Los Angeles Dodgers against the Giants. Giants 3.5 game lead on the Dodgers. Trying to increase that lead. San Diego in 3rd place, a game back of the Dodgers, 4.5 back there. trying to increase the lead in that division. Dodgers trying to do everything they can after winning 3 straight against the Cubs to cut that lead down from 3.5 down to where it needs to be. 4 back in the loss column, by the way, for those that follow loss column, which is where you should be following baseball. Anyway, and then in the NBA game tonight, Phoenix minus 5.5 over the Clippers. I think they close out the series. No Kawhi Leonard. The depression starting to set in for the Clippers after what happened on Sunday. Phoenix came back and beat them and ended up dominating them at the end. So Phoenix minus 5.5 tonight against the Clippers. They will be the Western Conference representatives for the NBA championship. And then tonight, we just talked about hockey. The Tampa Bay Lightning, minus 200, are going to take game 1 for the Montreal Canadiens. They're going to win. They'll be up 1-0 going to Wednesday, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes from there. So those are the picks. Those are the worldwide famous unsponsored picks that we have for the Make the Money and Run podcast on Monday, June 28th. Hope your day goes well. Hope your week goes well. Good luck with all your games. If you have any questions for us, you can just let us know. Get in contact with us. We'll be able to help you and help you preview some of these games and break them down the way they need to break down. All right, Charlie O on assignment. He'll be back Thursday and Friday with me. I'm Vasi Vadaparty. Have a great afternoon as always. Good luck. Thanks for joining the Make the Money and Run podcast for June 28th, 2021. See you later, everybody.